Got a bit of a strange engine today. I was given this engine to have a look at. It won't run without the choke being fully on, which is normally a sign of the carburetor being at fault. But I found it very difficult to identify the engine. I mean, it's not hard to identify the manufacturer. It's one of those Tomos 3 made in Yugoslavia for Ailsa Craig Limited. But the problem I've got is everything online references a 3.5. This is a 3 and I can't find anything online. I mean, there's literally zero reference to this engine at all. I can't even find pictures of the engine. Every single engine has cowlings on it. It's not even the same shape. I thought it might have been modified in some way, this fuel tank added on, but it looks like it was original as far as I can tell. Coming around on the other side, we've got a serial plate. I'm trying to get that to focus. It's got a TIP of 210750 and a serial number of 177626, which is obviously, it was obviously a production run. I can't find anything online regarding this engine. There's some websites that have a bit of information, but nothing relating to the 3 horsepower. And what websites there are, they basically said even when these engines were getting made, getting parts for them is nigh on impossible. And today, parts, yeah, I don't think you can get anything for them. There's one website I've seen where the later Tomos engines, I think that, you know, they're up to the 18 horsepower range. You can get a few parts for them, impellers and things, but I think impellers, a fuel tank maybe, and I think they're all used as well. So what I'm asking is if anyone knows anything at all about this engine. Is it the Tomos 3 made in Yugoslavia for Ailsa Craig Limited? Like I say, we've got the serial numbers there, so it's obviously, like I say, it's obviously a production run. It wasn't a one-off. I was thinking maybe it was a prototype engine, a one-off. I don't know, someone's put this together from parts of other engines, but it looks to be like it's not homemade or anything like that. I mean, it runs still, and it's in good condition. But like I say, even for dating it, I thought maybe it's a TIP. I've looked online what TIP stands for. I don't know. 210750. I thought maybe that was the year it was made, the 21st of the 7th, 1950. But the company Thomas Cooper, from what I can see online, was it 1954 or something like that? They were formed, and with a serial number that big, if it was like single digits or something, I could maybe understand. But it's a long production run. If that's the actual production number of the engine, I don't know how they serialize their engines, but it's just a mystery. There doesn't seem to be anything at all. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it's a mixed match of different engines put together and it just fits and that's it. Or someone's just put a sticker on. But it looks original, the old engine looks original. I just can't figure anything out. And made in Yugoslavia, I mean, Yugoslavia doesn't even exist anymore. The Civil War ended that. Yeah, mystery. So if anyone's got any information at all, please let me know in the comments. Like I say, I've looked everywhere. There's literally nothing. And what there is the 3.5, and this isn't the 3.5, this is the 3. And that's even rarer. And the only thing I actually did find was, funny enough, when I was searching for it, was the original listing for this actual engine with the serial number. It was some auction house in Edinburgh sold it, I think it's 45 quid or something, about 7 years ago. And that's literally the only thing I can find online about it. Mystery. I've even used Google Lens to try and even search by image, and that comes up with nothing as well. So if anyone's got anything, please let me know. But going back to why the engine's here with me is, like I said at the beginning, the engine won't run. I suspect it's this choke. We'll go into further details about it. But we'll get it stripped down and see what the cause is. So the customer stated that the engine wouldn't run very well, if at all. If it did run, it would cut out eventually. Says there was a bit of a fuel leak as well from around the carb. I wasn't sure where from. But with this carb, this isn't like your traditional carburetor with a butterfly. It's got a small airbox here, the transfer pipe. Just pop that out of the way. This is a slide carburetor. We'll take it apart and show you in better detail. What we've got is, we've got a fuel tap here, gravity fed fuel tank, 2-stroke engine, probably 50-to-1 mix. Fuel comes in. Here's the fuel inlet, and it comes into a float chamber like a standard carburetor. It's clamped onto the intake manifold here, just like that compression fitting. And we've got a twist throttle, which comes up to the top here and down. And what this does is, when you twist the throttle, there's a slider inside and it lifts up. You can see it better when we've got the top off here. This little handle here is the choke. That's the choke down. When you lift it up, that's the choke off. At the moment, it'll only run with the choke on. As soon as you lift that up, it doesn't want to know. Round the back, can't really see it, but there's a little black sort of plunger. Now when you depress that, it's spring loaded, you can press it down, it returns to the up position. I think it's some sort of like fuel enrichment, because in these slide carbs, especially one of this size, this is like a dirt bike size engine carburetor. It's probably like a fuel enrichment, either for agitating the float or something like that, or a primer for starting. It'll be nothing special anyway. Possibly where it's leaking from, because I've had the fuel on before then, wasn't getting any leaks. So there's not much to it really, but we'll strip it down and we'll show you the internals, because these slide carburetors are a little bit different. The slide might have a fixed needle, goes into the main jet, and when you twist the throttle, the slide lifts with the needle, and the needle is it's a tapered needle. And what happens is, as the needle and the slide lift, the needle which is inside the jet sort of comes out, and because it's tapered, it uncovers more and more of the jet, which allows more and more fuel to go through. It's quite a simple design, quite clever really, but it's an old type carburetor here. There's a few little numbers on there, a few scratched out. I'm not sure what they represent. Oh, we'll get it apart and have a look inside. First thing we want to do, make sure the fuel's off. The taps are crossways, so that's off. Got a clamp here, got a flat blade in there, and we'll just wind that off. Should be able to pull that off now. There we go. What else have we got? We've got a clamp there, and then the top here. That screw's loose because I've already tried slacking them out to make sure they're not seized and they're coming off. So we'll disconnect this, and then we'll have to disconnect or unscrew these two screws here, and the carb will be off then. Simple as that. I'll do it off camera because I can't hold it and do it, but let's say this screw here, which is a clamp, and then we've got 1, 2 flat blade screws there. So that's them off. I'll try and do this one-handed. I'll hold that little pipe there, and we'll just lift this fully off. Now you can see the spring, the slide, and this bit at the front here, this brass bit, that's the choke. So that's out. We'll just lift that to one side there. Here it is removed. You can see the main jet down the bottom there. Got like a fuel screw. We'll get this stripped apart and cleaned. Just put it in there so we don't lose it. We'll just have a look here at the slide and the choke. On the front there, literally just a simple choke. Got a notch cut out for airflow at the bottom there, so when it's shut you can still get a bit of airflow. It's just fallen off there, it's just pressed on. And we've got the main slide here with the needle, which is tapered. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it does get narrow towards the bottom and thicker towards the top. And when you twist the throttle, basically what you're doing is you're compressing it up against the spring. lifting it off the seat of the main jet, which the needle protrudes into. And when you go the other way, the spring overcomes the, well, because there's slack in the wire, the spring overcomes that, and it returns to the idle position. Like I say, the problem we've got is, customer says that basically it won't run without it being on the choke, which to me sounds like the main jet motion tube could be blocked. So we'll strip it down, clean it, put it back together. It's a simple engine, there's hardly anything to it. Like I say, parts are a no-go. If it needs but the simplest thing, a gasket, a screw, it's game over. Gaskets, we can sort of get around that with RTV, make a gasket, but component wise, if it needs actual components for the engine or anything like that, I think that's it. But we'll get to it, see what we can do. So I've just got the carburetor in a bowl here. First thing we'll do is we'll remove the lower float chamber here. It's just got a, what size is that, 14mm socket on there. The actual bowl, it's threaded, hasn't got a bolt that goes through. Just take that off. Now it's quite full of debris there. And we have the traditional float needle. See if we can press it out. And in the bottom there, you got the jet, which there is a bit of stuff on it there. It's dry. That gasket's gone. Like I say, we can put a new gasket in. We've got the RTV. See if we can get the float pin out and needle check that. But it's moving free. Suspect it's the actual jet. But we'll get that out. I'll give it a spray. Try and get that out. So I gave it a spray and it is free, which is a relief. I'll just make this old. I'll just remove this. There we go, it's one piece. You can see all the way through now. I suspect this is the culprit. Might be wrong, the engine might just be worn out. But I've got some little rods and we'll rod it through. There's a bit of a number on there. 220. It's probably the size of the orifice or something. Yeah, I'll get that rodded through now. Tiny little rods here, and we'll just slip it through. That's one all the way through. It's hard to actually see. It was blocked to start with. I'll go for the next size up. See how big we can go without damaging it. Also, you don't want to force anything through because it is soft brass. That size feels a bit better. Feels like we're sort of making contact with the walls now. Go the next one up again. Say, don't want to go too big and damage it. Yeah, that one's on the limit there. That's not going to go through. But I've got some carb cleaner. We'll just spray it through. Clean out the bottom bowl as well, and then we'll tackle the top body. So what I've done is I've just put the carb cleaner in there and we give it a spray. It's coming out. It's actually vaporising quite nicely coming out of there, so quite happy that that's clean. We'll clean the outside as well, just quickly there. And we'll set that to one side, let it dry off. Right, now for the lower bowl, what we'll do is I'll spray it out with carb cleaner and I'll just scrape out as much of that loose debris as I can. Nothing special for this, just obviously mind the threads on the inside there, because this is threaded. It hasn't got a... Most ones now have a hole in the bottom, the bolt comes through with a washer to seal it. This one is one piece, so just be careful. I'll clean this off camera. So there we go, that's that cleaned. Most of it was just a gasket around the top lip here that was stuck on, and a bit of debris in the middle there. But that's all cleaned off, and I'll set that to one side. So we'll clean the top carburetor now. I was saying this plunger here, you can see when you press it, it comes down. So I think when the fuel's full, it must just unseat the needle there, and it must be for like fuel enrichment for starting. So it says no other purpose unless it's like a failsafe. If that sticks shut, you can literally just force it off the seat. That's possible. See, without the book, I literally don't know, but it can only be one or two things really. It's only doing that. So never seen it before on a carb, but obviously at the time they thought it was a good idea. So I've just scraped the old gasket. That was the sealing face for the float chamber there. And the next thing I'll do is I'll remove this screw. I'll give it a clean out. We'll just hit it with a carb cleaner. There's not much to really disassemble with this. Just a basic clean really. Like I say, I can't really achieve much. There's no parts to replace, so I don't want to go too crazy. I'll check to make sure that the float bowl's sealing correctly. I believe it is. One thing I did forget to mention is when you take out pilot screws, air screws, fuel screws, whatever it is, it's a good idea to, from the position, what I normally do is I'll screw them closed, so clockwise. Once you do this lightly, you don't want to damage the tips. Count the turns, and then when you unscrew it, take it out, put it back in, do the same, screw it all the way down, then count the turns back to where it was. That means you don't have to worry about, well, what was the position. It's normally two and a half turns, 3 turns, something like that. It's a standard, but with this one I'm not too sure, but I think we'll have to start playing with it once it's back on the engine to get it set properly. Obviously no book, no service documents, no nothing, and in there, you can't really see it, but you can see the needle seating and unseating. There's that needle out. You see it's quite a thick one. Just screws in there with a spring to keep the tension on. That's a pretty much clean. This is as good a job I can do. I'm not going to strip it fully because, like I say, if it needs any parts, it's done for. But we'll put it back together. Put a bit of RTV on this seal here, around the top, and then hopefully that'll be it. It might need some tuning, I imagine, with that screw, but hopefully we can get it something working. Obviously the same for assembly, just the reverse. So we've got the main jet here. Do one quick last blow through. Still able to do it. We'll drop that in there. Start off by hand so we don't cross thread it. Get the screwdriver out. And we'll seat it. Nothing crazy for seating it. Literally just let it seat and then tiny bit of pressure. You don't want it to unseat again, and it is brass, so you will damage it once it's seated. So now I'll get a bit of RTV, light beading all the way around the edge there, and then we'll get the bottom bowl on, and that's pretty much it, reassembled, apart from putting it back onto the engine. So this is the RTV I'm using, 9915 blue. I'm pretty sure it's fuel resistant, I mean it's oil resistant. I used this before my car, it's the same tube. Like I say, I'll put a small bead on. I've got the smallest applicator nozzle possible. It just needs a tiny amount, so I'll do that. So that's the RTV on. I actually found it easier to put it onto the bowl itself, and then I run around the inside with a Stanley blade just to get off any residue. I'm hoping that's enough. If not, once it's on I can always put a bit more on, but I don't want to put too much in so when it compresses it squirts out. That's it wound back on there now. I'm pretty happy with the seal on that actually. I guess I could just go around the outer lip there, but I don't think it's required. Give it a shake, I can hear the float going up and down, so I know that's not stuck. And now it'll just be a case of reattaching it back onto the engine. This is keyed, this slide will only go in one way, and the choke just slots on, and that'll only go in one way as well, so you can't go wrong with that. It'll be a bit difficult to show it on camera, So I'll get it in and then I'll get it, show you once it's back on the engine. So you saw how it came off. It's like I say, I think this is a one-of-a-kind engine. I don't think there's many people copying me, so I wouldn't worry about it. Like I say, it's keyed, it'll only go one way, and you can't, obviously don't force it on. It's the worst thing you can do. And there's the needle, it's in good condition, no damage. So that's it back on there. It's really simple. The thing literally just drops on. I think you'll be able to see the, if you look inside there, that's the slide fully down. That's the idle. I'll push this. There's the choke down. You can just see the little bridge at the bottom there. Let's see, lift it back up. There we go, that's it up. Now you can see the choke. The main throttle slide and the needle. See if I can put the full throttle. That's full throttle there. And now you can see all the way through, and the needle has lifted off the seat. And that's back to idle. Now the carb literally just slides onto there. We'll secure that. I might put a bit of RTV around here as well, just in case there's a vacuum leak. We'll see the fuel line presses onto that, and then there's a little connector. You don't need that one to run, just an air box. That's it all back on, clamped down, 9mm. Clamped on here, the fuel tap inline's on, open the breather on the top of the fuel tank, and we'll just check for any fuel leakage. Leave it for a minute or so just so the bowl can fill. I'm not seeing anything yet, so what I'll do now, I'll clear everything off that bin that I was working on. We'll put it in the tank. It is an air-cooled engine, but with most things air-cooled, the gearbox, this is a direct drive engine on a clutch, or it might not even be on a clutch. No, I think it is on a clutch. Let me just check. Nope, it's not even on a clutch, so it's actually direct drive. There's no neutral, there's no centrifugal clutch or anything like that, like on the modern ones, like on the Hondas. So as soon as you start that proper spinning, yes, you could run it out of the water, but you do run the risk of overheating it eventually. I mean, for what we're doing, probably not, but be safe than sorry. And I want to test it on load as well. So I'll clear the bin off, we'll get it in the water, give it a run. So we'll go for first run here. It's in the water, fuel tap's open, choke is off, and here we go. Hold the stop button. Like with all things ancient, no safety devices, no kill cord or anything like that. Strange thing to think now, like everything has a safety device on it, but this one, literally nothing. You'd think as well it would definitely have one, being direct drive. There's not even a neutral position. It's pretty much, it's so dangerous, but that's what you had back then. I suppose Yugoslavia didn't really have that many safety regulations for maritime outboards at the time, but it still works. Now it's running. It's running quite well. I'm pretty sure it was the main jet was blocked. Let's say when I cleaned it, there was a bit of debris in there. These things happen. It's an old engine, no filters, no nothing. 2-stroke, you know, you get anything in there. But he did say when it did run, it would conk out after a certain amount of time, 15-20 minutes, something like that. Not sure why. I mean, I'm going to run it and just see what happens. Could be anything at that point. I mean, at that time, after that much time running, it's probably it's a heat related issue. Could be the carb getting hot, fuel, it could be anything. It could be as simple as fuel starvation because the breather's not being removed. It could be anything, but I'll run it, see what happens, see if I can find anything else wrong with it. Like I say, pretty happy with the result there. Beforehand, I mean, I should have showed you running before, but to be honest, it just didn't run. You'd have to have the choke full on, and it would be spluttering, and you'd have to put your finger over here to try and pull some fuel through, you know, create a big vacuum. Definitely, I've seen it before, it's 100% the main jet. I think I got the mixture right as well, 2.5 turns. So I'll give it a run. If anything happens, we'll come back, but that's it. The Tomos 3, the mystery engine. Like always, if you've enjoyed that video and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and like it. And like I say, if you've got anything at all on the Tomos 3, not the 3.5 or anything like that, because there's loads of stuff online about that, but just any information at all about the 3, whether this is been put together by someone, I literally don't know. I can't find anything, like I say. So if you've got anything, I don't even know if it's supposed to have a cowling on it, a lower case. I just don't know. It doesn't look like it. Like I say, if you've got anything, just put it in the comments. I really appreciate it. And thanks for watching. Just a quick update here on the engine. Now, as you know, I've not been able to find anything on the engine itself, but with the carburetor, I have actually been able to find some information regarding this carburetor. Now, it's made by a company called Bing. It's stamped on the front there. I don't know if you can see it. And when we took it apart, it had a number on the jet. It had 220. Now online, that's referred to as a 2.20. And I searched that along with the name of the carb, Bing, and it turns out that this carburetor is used a lot on mopeds made by a company called Puch, an Austrian company, in the 70s and 80s. Now, it was used on the moped they built called the Puch Maxi, and they still make parts for it. Be it aftermarket parts, you can even buy carburetors, replica carburetors. I imagine they're Chinese built, but being so simple, they're probably no worse than the ones that they built in Yugoslavia. Yeah, so it's amazing that you can still get parts for it. They had rebuild kits, they had the whole lot. So it just shows that just because there's no parts for the actual engine, which is obsolete, that the carburetor, be it from a moped, you can still get parts for it. So the more you know. One thing we're just going to check there, just going to check for fuel leaks. Not a drop. So I think that RTV's done the job. Really happy with the outcome of this one.